Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. I go on rolls, I go on fixations, I spend a lot of time looking at eBay auctions and figuring out what would make sense to acquire, and then look at it, investigate it, and decide to share it with my viewers on YouTube. So when I saw this pen, it immediately struck my fancy. And to keep the suspense to a minimum, yes, it's a PENBBS pen, a Model 322 EF, which I'm assuming means extra fine, but we'll take a look at that when we get some ink on paper. The PENBBS is fairly small here compared to how it usually is up here, so it's a little bit of a different label. So when we slide off this relatively flimsy plastic cover, but suitable for what you need to do, because this is the least expensive PENBBS pen on the market. We slip it out. The first thing to me that becomes totally obvious is it looks like a Pilot 78G. Those of you that have followed my channel know that I've delved into all the different versions of this that are made in China by different, at least they're branded differently. So this has some of those same features, probably made in the same mold. So curious as to what distinguishes this from some of the other pens. This costs more than the other versions of the Chinese Pilot 78G. You know, my theory is that Pilot's making the 78G in China, so they have access to the molds, the design work, and everything else. So, and they just make some for themselves, which, from what I understand from more reading that I do, is just common business practice there. I mean, we in our view of how business should be run, may feel that that's not appropriate. Here's how the shipping shows up on eBay. It took the usual 2 weeks, but what was unique and different is the shipping label. Not like any shipping label I've ever seen on a package that was supposedly shipped from China. The return address is Inwood, New York, and shipped to me in the US. So that's a little bit different. And this is the typical China Post shipping label that I've seen on every other package I've recently gotten from China. You know, it's in coordination with the United States Postal Service, and it's an e-packet, which you'll see a lot of times listed in the auction. So something has changed on shipping. Not sure what it is, but it's still the 2-week delivery cycle, which is relatively fast for something from China. So here's the actual 78G. Here's a Wing Sung, which I'm pretty certain at 12,002. Now it's a 3001. And then this is another brand called Lucia on that clip. You know, these three have in common that painted design on the bottom of the cap that has some information on it. This one just says Japan. You know, they all have the same type of mechanism at the finial at the top that screws on, holds the clip on. You know, these three have a very similar clip, where the PENBBS one is done a little bit more stylized. There's no markings here at the bottom of the cap. None of these have a cap band. You know, they're all cartridge converter, probably suitable for eyedroppering. I don't think there's a hole in the end, but, you know, I wouldn't eyedropper these because I don't think they're worth putting that much ink in them. So let's take a look at some other aspects, and then we'll put nib to paper and see how this extra fine writes. They all post well, and as you can see, they're all the same length posted. Let's zoom in a little bit on the business end. The sections are all very similar. You know, some of these have that gold band between the section and the barrel. The 78G does not, and neither does the PENBBS model. These three have the equivalent of like a number 5 nib. What's different is this one here has a Lamy style nib, The Wing Sung has a clear feed, which makes it a little bit different, and I think adds itself when you have a transparent pen like this. The Pilot has the standard Pilot feed, and we can see that the transparent feed mimics the Pilot feed, but PENBBS has your classic finned feed, which they have on most of their other pens. When I first picked up these pens and felt how they felt, I felt the PENBBS was heavier, more substantial, had a more solid feel to it, but when I weighed them, the difference I don't think is significant. The PENBBS is 12.9, 12.6, 12.5, and 11. The Ryoshi is the lightest of the four, which is what I would expect. These other two pens are very inexpensive. Yeah, obviously the 78G has its value from being a Pilot, and the PENBBS probably is well priced, but I still think, you know, it's not a pen that I generally gravitate towards. So I've decided to use this ink in the pen. I haven't done this ink, used this ink in a video. I bought the ink on Amazon because I read online a number of months ago that Namiki wasn't going to be selling their inks anymore, so I figured let's grab a bottle. Here's my color card. It's a nice looking blue. Very clean blue. Also did a chromatography, and again, very clean. Looks like a little bit of pale green here at the top, but the rest of it's really an intense blue. So I recently used Presidential Blue, so to compare these two chromatographies, you'll see that they're similar, but the Namiki Blue definitely is bluer. As you saw in a comparison, this is pretty much identical in size to a 78G. It's very light. It fits well in the hand. You can post it. This is a pen I would probably write with posted because you really don't even feel the weight of the cap. The clear section really shows off the ink really nicely. And again, a clear feed would be nice, but these feeds work very well. So I'm happy with that versus whether they're clear or black. Sorry for that little bit of in and out of focus. I mean, this is a nice nib for an extra fine. I'm not an extra fine person, and also like the other PENBBS nibs, it's a little soft. Not that I would flex much, but it certainly does lay down a nice patch of ink, and this Namiki Blue is a blue ink. So overall, I like the pen. Let's give it a rating. I'm going to give it an 8.3. As I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of this design. This section's okay. You know, I don't use my 78Gs. I don't use any of the other pens which are mimic the 78G. But if you're looking for an extra fine pen and you want something with a decent nib, then this might be the pen for you. I don't know whether it comes in other colors. I'm not going to research that. I'm certainly happy to have this interesting PENBBS pen in my PENBBS collection, but I certainly don't need another one. So thank you for watching. I mean, it is a smooth nib for an extra fine. I mean, there is some qualities to it, and it works well with this ink, so that's really nice. So may you have many great writing experiences. Explore this wonderful world of pens, inks, and paper. The end for now. Until the next video, bye. It's also kind of nice and wet. Really shows off the ink.